When you think about corporate training, there's usually a very specific vibe that comes to mind, right? Like you're probably picturing a windowless hotel conference room.
Oh, absolutely. With lukewarm coffee in a dispenser.
Yes. And like a platter of just sad, stale pastries while someone at the front of the room is clicking through a PowerPoint on conflict resolution.
Yeah,
And everyone is secretly just checking their phones under the table.
right. Or if you're looking at the remote equivalent, it's just furiously clicking the next button on a mandatory compliance video. You're just waiting for the quiz at the end so you can get back to your actual job.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's designed to be safe, highly predictable, and entirely frictionless.
You essentially expect to be, well, slightly bored. But imagine you put on a virtual reality headset, and suddenly you aren't in a conference room anymore. You are standing in the middle of a digital interrogation.
Yeah, that's quite the shift.
It really is. You have three absolute experts relentlessly questioning your judgment, picking apart your logic in real time, and aggressively demanding that you solve an impossible problem. And if you contradict yourself even once, they catch it immediately.
It is the complete opposite of a corporate trust fall. I mean, you are stepping into an environment deliberately designed to push human cognition to its absolute breaking point. That completely strips away all that safe, predictable padding.
Okay, let's unpack this because we are looking at a fascinating April 2026 press release from a company called EON AI Ventures, and they are rolling out something called the Tribunal.
Right.
It's an XR or extended reality multi-avatar challenge. It basically uses advanced prompt engineering to train enterprise professionals in high-stakes negotiation and decision-making.
Yeah, it's an intense concept.
So our mission for this deep dive is to figure out why a company is building an AI system that essentially acts as a digital firing squad for executives. Like, what is the core problem this technology is trying to solve for your career and for the broader workforce?
Well, to understand why something as intense as the tribunal even exists, we have to look at the immediate context. This isn't just, a cool new VR app or a shiny tech demo.
Right.
It's a critical, almost desperate response to a massive demographic and technological shift that is happening in the global workforce right this very second. We are facing a foundational crisis in human capital.
And the numbers EON highlights in this release are just staggering. They point out that by 2030, which from the perspective of this April 2026 release is literally only 4 years away, 50% of the global workforce will be retiring.
Exactly. Half the people who know how to run our hospitals, manage our global supply chains, secure our financial systems, they're all just going to pack up their desks and leave.
Wow. Which obviously creates an immediate vacuum.
Oh, massive. The source notes that this mass exodus leaves behind a 5 to 7 year competency gap across virtually every major industry.
To put that in perspective, imagine a championship sports team. Imagine if, at the end of the season, all the veteran players, the ones who know the playbook by heart, who can read the defense just by how they are standing, they all retire on the exact same day.
Right, leaving you with just the rookies.
Exactly. And sure, the rookies are talented, they have all the physical stats, and they are super eager, but they don't have that instinct. They lack the muscle memory of playing under the lights when the game is actually on the line. So the question is, can technology actually step in and replace decades of human intuition?
Yeah, that is the pivotal question EON AI Ventures is trying to answer. And historically, the answer was a resounding no. What's fascinating here is their analysis of why traditional training completely fails to bridge this competency gap.
Because it's too basic?
Kind of, yeah. They point out that standard corporate role play is fundamentally flawed for advanced professionals because it's just too guided. Like when you do a role play with a coworker, you both know the script.
Right, you're just going through the motions.
Exactly. You're exchanging pleasantries, maybe navigating a tiny hurdle, but you aren't actually facing the chaotic, multivariable complexity of a real crisis. A generic seminar simply cannot simulate the weight of a decision where millions of dollars or even human lives are on the line.
Which naturally leads to the elephant in the room, generative AI. A lot of people listening might be thinking, well, we have advanced AI now, right? Can't we just use consumer chatbots to help us make these decisions?
You'd think so, but the source brings up a really crucial distinction regarding precision. EON points out that generic AI tools might deliver 80% quality.
Right, which for drafting a marketing email or summarizing a meeting, 80% is totally fine.
Perfectly fine. But in high-stakes industries like healthcare or advanced manufacturing, you require 100% precision. The cost of errors is just too high. An 80% success rate in managing a pharmaceutical supply chain means a hospital literally doesn't get critical medication.
So consumer AI just isn't built for that level of stakes.
No, because consumer AI models are fundamentally predictive. They generate the most statistically likely response based on broad internet data. They aim for consensus, which often means generic, middle-of-the-road advice.
But enterprise leadership doesn't operate in the middle of the road.
Exactly. That final 20% of precision isn't about generating grammatically correct text. It's about highly specific context, recognizing subtle nuances, and navigating human friction. And that is exactly where that 5 to 7 year competency gap lies.
So it's not a lack of facts. Like you
Yeah.
said, rookies have the fact.
Right, it's a lack of experiential wisdom under pressure.
So if a consumer AI isn't precise enough and standard human role play is way too predictable, how do you actually build a simulation that surprises and challenges a seasoned executive?
Well, that is where EON AI Ventures steps in. They bring 25 years of enterprise XR experience to the table, and they've developed a solution embedded within their multi-avatar soft skills platform.
That's the Tribunal.
Yes. And it represents a fundamental psychological shift in how enterprise training is designed. It moves the entire paradigm from passive learning to adversarial development.
Meaning you aren't just watching a video anymore.
Right. The Tribunal is a 20-minute, fully immersive XR session. The goal is to establish a standard of measurable excellence by forcing professionals to actively defend their positions. You are actively surviving a structured intellectual assault.
Here's where it gets really interesting because the time frame they are working with sounds unbelievable. We are talking about replacing decades of hard-won executive instincts, attempting to bridge a massive competency gap, and the proposed solution is a 20-minute VR session.
I know, it sounds a bit crazy.
It feels like high-intensity interval training, but for the brain, like cognitive HIA. You do a 20-minute physical HIIT workout, your heart rate is maxed out, your muscles burn, and it supposedly does the physiological work of a 2-hour jog. But I'm stuck on this 20-minute claim. You're telling me you can compress years of trial and error into a 20-minute window.
The skepticism makes perfect sense. But to understand how they attempt this, we have to look away from the duration and focus entirely on the density of the cognitive load.
Yeah.
They aren't just speeding up a normal conversation. They achieve extreme psychological pressure through a highly orchestrated, multi-agent framework. So when you step into the Tribunal, you aren't talking to a single polite chatbot. You are facing 3 distinct expert AI avatars simultaneously.
So it's essentially a digital firing squad.
That is an incredibly apt description. The simulation confronts you with the Economist, the Psychologist, and the Pragmatist. Each avatar embodies a completely different, deeply entrenched, and often opposing operational framework.
All right, picture this for a second. Imagine you are trapped in an elevator, and in this elevator with you is your company's chief financial officer, the director of human resources, and the chief operating officer.
Oh, that sounds like a nightmare.
Totally. So the CFO, who plays the role of the economist, is aggressively demanding that you cut operating costs immediately. The HR director, the psychologist, is warning you that if you cut those costs, employee morale will completely collapse and trigger a mass walkout.
Right.
And then the COO, the pragmatist, is just staring at you, tapping their watch, saying, look, I don't care about the budget or the hurt feelings. We have a product shipping in 2 hours, and I need a logistical solution right now. You are trapped in that elevator trying to hold your ground while they all demand contradictory things.
That elevator scenario beautifully illustrates what EON is simulating, but they do it with algorithmic precision. If we connect this to the bigger picture, real-world executive decisions are rarely about choosing between a clearly right and a clearly wrong option.
Yeah, it's usually just bad and slightly less bad.
Exactly. Or it's about balancing conflicting, equally valid priorities. The budget constraints are undeniably valid. Maintaining human morale is valid. Executing logistics on time is valid. The simulation forces you to navigate the friction between these truths.
Wait, if I have 3 different AIs attacking me at once, how does the system not just devolve into digital noise? I mean, generative AIs are notorious for talking over each other or losing the thread. How is this software actually tracking my answers while maintaining that 100% precision?
That is the technical secret sauce of the Tribunal. They utilize something called an orchestrator, system prompt. You can think of it as a hidden referee running in the background.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, this orchestrator AI doesn't actually argue with you. Its entire job is to manage the other 3 avatars. It controls turn-taking. It initiates interrupt protocols.
Wait, interrupt protocol, so the AI will actually interrupt you mid-sentence.
Oh, absolutely. If you are dodging a question, it jumps right in. And it carefully escalates the intensity of the challenge. It tracks your progress in real time to ensure the pressure is perfectly calibrated to your specific expertise level.
So it isn't just three chatbots running on a loop. There is a master system directing the attack.
It goes even deeper than that. The most crucial mechanism keeping the simulation precise is what they call framework collision detection.
Framework collision detection. Okay, what is that?
Well, as you are speaking, desperately trying to appease the economist by suggesting a budget cut, the AI system is instantly transcribing and scanning your argument. It cross-references your current statement against what you told the psychologist 2 minutes prior.
Oh, wow.
So if you promised the HR avatar you wouldn't cut jobs, but now you're promising the CFO you'll reduce overhead, the system instantly detects that logical collision. It forces you to dynamically resolve those opposing arguments on the spot.
Which is terrifying. Imagine trying to talk your way out of a complex problem, knowing that a machine is instantly analyzing every single word you say against three different domains of expertise, specifically hunting for a crack in your logic to exploit.
It demands a level of structured, airtight problem solving that most humans are rarely held to in casual corporate meetings. I mean, you cannot rely on charm, evasion, or corporate buzzwords to get by. The system forces cross-domain thinking and exposes lazy logic immediately.
Okay, so you are deep in the XR environment. You've been sweating it out for 15 minutes, desperately trying to balance the budget, save the team's morale, and ship the product on time. How does the simulation actually end?
That's the best part.
Because at some point, the elevator doors have to open, right?
They do, but only after you survive the climax of the simulation, which EON refers to as the crossfire phase. This happens in the final 25% of the session. Up until this point, the orchestrator has been managing polite turn-taking. But in the crossfire phase, the guardrails come off.
Don't tell me
All three avatars begin to attack your argument simultaneously.
they drop the polite turn-taking entirely.
Entirely. The system intentionally simulates the extreme cognitive load of the most chaotic, high-stakes enterprise environments. It's engineered to overwhelm your working memory, testing whether your core reasoning holds up under maximum psychological stress.
So what does this all mean? Because I'm stuck on this idea of extreme cognitive load. As much as I appreciate the HII analogy, there is a very fine line between training and torment.
That's a fair point.
If you take a rising professional, someone you are relying on to fill that massive 2030 retirement gap, and you put them through a simultaneous AI interrogation where a machine mathematically proves their logic is flawed, doesn't that risk breaking their confidence entirely? Like, is this actually building better executives, or is it just inducing corporate trauma?
It's a critical distinction to make, and it really comes down to how the software handles the aftermath. The goal isn't to break the learner just for the sake of it. The goal is to generate actionable data.
Okay, how so?
Well, the real value of this entire multi-agent system lies in the verdict collection and session debrief output. Success in the tribunal isn't about perfectly satisfying all three avatars. Mathematically satisfying the economist, the psychologist, and the pragmatist all at 100% is impossible. The system knows that.
Wait, if perfection is impossible, how do you actually pass the simulation?
Success is about hitting a specific credential threshold score. The data from the release indicates that passing requires hitting a 0.72 challenge satisfaction threshold across the conflicting demands.
To a 72%.
Exactly. The system isn't looking for a perfect utopian answer. It's evaluating your reasoning quality, your adaptability, and your conflict resolution skills.
Meaning you don't have to be flawless, you just have to be incredibly adaptable in finding the best possible compromise.
Precisely. The system logs every single collision event where your operational frameworks contradicted each other. Then, it turns all of that stressful, high-pressure arguing into concrete metrics.
Oh, so you get a report.
Yes. When you step out of the XR simulation, you don't just leave feeling stressed out. You are handed a comprehensive dashboard showing exactly where your logic failed under pressure, literally down to the second. It takes an invisible, abstract, soft skill-like negotiation and turns it into a hard, measurable, highly specific metric.
Which gives so much context to why the chairman of EON AI Ventures, Dan Lidgerskar, has that specific quote in the release. He says, "This is not simulation, it's transformation."
Yes. That's exactly what he means.
They aren't just trying to simulate a difficult board meeting. They are trying to fundamentally transform your neurobiology. They want your brain to become so accustomed to a high level of cognitive friction that when you actually are in a real crisis, it just feels manageable.
They are effectively immunizing the future workforce against the paralysis of complexity.
Mm.
By forcing professionals to confront mathematically rigorous stress in a virtual environment, the real-world stakes feel far less overwhelming.
Okay, so to wrap up our deep dive into this, we started with a looming global crisis. By 2030, half the global workforce retires, taking decades of hard-earned intuition with them and leaving a gaping 5 to 7 year competency hole across vital industries.
Right?
And standard corporate training, like the PowerPoints and predictable role play scenarios, is entirely insufficient for the 100% precision required in these high-stakes fields. Plus, generic consumer AI falls short because it only provides 80% quality and really lacks complex context.
Yep, you nailed it.
So, EON AI Ventures introduces the Tribunal. They take advanced prompt engineering, XR rendering, and a sophisticated multi-agent framework orchestrated by an invisible referee to basically turn AI into an adversarial sparring partner. You spend 20 minutes getting intensely grilled by an economist, a psychologist, and a pragmatist. The system actively hunts for logical collisions in your arguments and then measures exactly how well your reasoning holds up under a digital crossfire, demanding a 72% satisfaction threshold to prove your competence.
And this raises an important question for anyone listening today. We spend so much time worrying about whether AI is going to automate our hard skills, our coding, data analysis, copywriting.
Right, everyone's worried about that.
But as automation increasingly takes over those routine predictive tasks, what is genuinely left for human workers, the ability to navigate human nuance, to balance deeply conflicting frameworks, and to make sound, adaptable judgments under extreme pressure. That becomes the ultimate survival skill in the modern enterprise.
And that leaves me with one final, slightly terrifying thought for you to mull over as we close. If we are entering an era where executives are spending their time in VR, being aggressively trained by multi-agent AIs to deliver perfectly optimized, mathematically stress-tested arguments, what happens when they go into a real boardroom?
Oh, that's a wild thought.
Right. Imagine walking into a high-stakes negotiation, totally prepped by the tribunal, only to sit across the table from another human being who is trained by the exact same AI. Will human business negotiations eventually just become two AI-trained proxies running optimized algorithms at each other through human mouths? I mean, it is a long way from lukewarm coffee, and trust falls in a windowless conference room.
It certainly is.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.